Welcome to 48 Hours True Crime. Today, we're delving into the complex case of Matthew Eckert and Alexandra Pennick. We'll start with the background, then trace the timeline of events, and finally, I'll share my analysis. Matthew Philip Eckert, born on September 13, 1978, lived in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, a small town in western Minnesota, about an hour southeast of Fargo, North Dakota. Working as a nurse practitioner, he was married with 4 children. In 2020, he met Alexandra Pennick, known as Alex, a fellow nurse at his clinic. Born on December 22, 1989, Alex had recently become a nurse, despite a history of mental health struggles and substance misuse. She and Matthew began an affair, but her continued battles with sobriety impacted her stability. After moving to Arizona, Alex faced legal trouble, including a DUI charge in March 2022 and a suspended license by year's end. Later, Matthew helped her move back to Minnesota, where she settled in St. Paul, 186 miles from his home. Now let's move to the night of the crime. In the early hours of December 16, 2022, Matthew called 911, claiming Alex had taken her life with a gun moments before. Police found Alex in her bathroom, with a gunshot wound to her head, blood-dried, and a pistol resting on her chest. Strikingly, the bathroom door appeared forced open. According to Matthew, the previous day, Alex had been distraught, fearing an ex-boyfriend, Shane Anderson. In response, Matthew had driven nearly 3 hours to her apartment, bringing his licensed firearm. They went to a bar, where they confronted Shane, ending in a scuffle before returning to her apartment. Inside, Alex took Matthew's pistol, walked backward into the bathroom, locked the door, and according to Matthew, fired the fatal shot. He then shouldered the door open, but his actions afterward were curious. He moved the gun, placing it in his bag before deciding to place it back on her chest. A series of troubling inconsistencies emerged in Matthew's account. He offered conflicting versions of events, such as his position when the gun fired, whether he performed CPR, and if he even attempted to stop her bleeding. Even more disturbing, Alex's body position and the placement of the broken door latch suggested the door might have been forced open before she was shot. Furthermore, Alex was right-handed, yet the gunshot wound was on the left side of her head. Matthew maintained his innocence, and some supporters argued that Alex was responsible for her own death. She struggled with mental health issues, substance use, and depression, and 2 days prior, she had expressed deep despair. At her death, she was highly intoxicated, with prescription medications in her system, which might explain her decision to handle the firearm. But with her left hand on the gun, her body awkwardly positioned, and multiple points of physical evidence contradicting Matthew's story, the court ruled her death a homicide. Ultimately, Matthew was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 30 years in prison in 2024. Reflecting on this case, it seems likely that tension between Matthew and Alex reached a breaking point that night. He was enmeshed in a turbulent affair, blurred by unethical behavior and a misguided attempt to protect her. By bringing his gun into the situation, Matthew escalated an already volatile relationship. Whether it was a moment of anger or fear of exposure, he made choices that led to a tragic end. Alex's life was chaotic, a result of addiction and emotional instability, but in the end, she became a victim twice over, first by her addiction and ultimately by Matthew. Thank you for watching. This case illustrates the dark toll that substance abuse and strained relationships can exact. Introducing a weapon into this mix was a mistake that led to irrevocable loss.